Right before the end of 2023, a new trend started to form in the My Little Pony fandom. Instead of the happy and colourful world many kids and adults are familiar with, people started depicting the ponies in our real world. Stuff like Applejack's slow start in the early morning, or Fluttershy reading a book. These peaceful yet powerful images, and how they were all ravaged by an unknown virus. Pestrophobia, a disease we know far too little about, devouring anyone infected down to the bone. And somehow, this is the best part of the process. Before your body decays away, you lose yourself, becoming a deformed parody of what you once were. Those images of ponies in real life changing to depict the new situation they found themselves in. Psych wards to lock away the infected. Hour-long stakeouts to find the ones who got away. Potentially final embraces between loved ones. And the emptiness that comes from a person unable to do that anymore. The question I and many others had upon stumbling down this hole in the internet was, what is this? After doing a little bit of research, and unfortunately installing TikTok for this, I have managed to trace this trend down to two people. Oshuot and... Look, I'm learning Spanish, but my pronunciation sucks. Ironically enough, these two kind of started their own pandemic from this idea. TikTok creators began posting their own interpretation of this idea in mass, until we got to this point in time, where the sentence, "Hey, I read an MLP infection AU," could open like 15 different cans of worms. When stuff like this gets popular, I usually try and make myself look smart by using the 2 years of sociology I did to find out why. But this one seemed kind of obvious to me. First one was this trend starting on TikTok, the biggest video platform in the entire world. People my age and younger love short form content, and probably have at least heard of My Little Pony, so it was shared around quite a bit. The second is a lot more important to me in my opinion. I and many others had their whole lives turned upside down by the real life pandemic. In that time, I went from goofing around with my friends in year 10 and being forced to stay inside because being in a room with another person was a genuine health concern. I think that's why the art hit me so hard when I first started looking through all of this. Having something comforting and familiar turn into a monster I need to avoid at all costs. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into this, I don't know. The infection AUs kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest, and it surprised a lot of people that characters from My Little Pony of all places could change so drastically. But that just wasn't really a new thing. Horror content for My Little Pony has been a thing for well over a decade, and I want to talk about it. Yep, that's the intro to the video. But before that, look at these numbers. Aren't they just pathetic? Hi. Border Oranges here, multi-millionaire, boy failure, and epic influencer. Sorry, I almost threw up. I want to hit a nondescript YouTube goal so my parents will actually pick up my phone calls, and you can help. If you're enjoying what you're seeing so far or have watched my other videos, then hit subscribe. I also have a Discord server. There's also a Twitter and an Instagram for posting about my mundane life, a Twitch that I try to stream on at least once a month, and a third in Patreon because I want all of your money. For legal reasons, I have to clarify that was a joke. So if any of these perks seem enticing, then check them out. Anyway, back to the video. As I said about 5 seconds ago, horror and My Little Pony isn't a new thing. People have been making this type of content within the first month of Gen 5 airing. A video you've no doubt heard of is Cupcakes. Sure, a decade later, it's incredibly easy to dismiss this video as simple bait and shock humor. But just for 1 second, imagine being a fan of the show at this time, and seeing this innocent little video of Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash. Then imagine those people's faces when Pinkie Pie drugs Rainbow Dash with a cupcake, and then have one of the goriest executions of a children's character that I can only really compare to the Itchy and Scratchy show. You know, the one that isn't real? The gore is juxtaposed by this silly little dance the two characters are doing, with Better Get Ready to Die blasting the entire time. All this spawned from a random post on fanfiction.net. The video version is honestly kind of tame compared to the type of shit I had had to read. The original post details Pinkie Pie murdering all of her friends, not just Rainbow Dash. A lot of the original comments on this story have thankfully been saved, and it proves what I'm talking about. I would have stopped reading, but it was so good. I'm gonna have nightmares tonight. Good job though. This was disturbingly good. I didn't have the balls to watch it on YouTube. Finally, I understand Cupcakes. What the hell did I just read? No wonder my friends were scared from reading this. Go to hell. I have no mercy for you, sir. This is, and always will be, the most screwed up story I have ever read, and is a disgrace to Lauren Faust's My Little Pony cartoon series. I should have just listened to all of my fellow bronies and not read this. But since I didn't, I now want to burn my eyes and then gouge them out. Good day, sir. This caught a lot of people off guard. Comments under the story vocalized their fear and disgust, but some comments acted as foreshadowing for what MLP horror would become in the near future. That was horrifying, but also awesome! With the attention Cupcakes received, other fans decided to give writing horror a shot. Smile HD, another video Lynn is gonna have to censor the shit out of.
Man, I'm gonna go work in a Subway or something. This sucks.
This one has Pinkie Pie fucking Falcon punch the autism out of Twilight before getting into an anime-style brawl with the rest of the main six. This used the same approach as the Cupcakes video, having everything look completely fine and then have Pinkie Pie fucking fire a Kamehameha one of her friends. It's great. I love it. At this time, there was a legitimate concern surrounding this content being readily available for kids to consume. Popular theory is that Hasbro had taken down the Smile HD video, and a decently sized group of people were voicing the need to leave some sort of warning to kids about this content that they may have been mistakenly watching. That group paled in comparison to the people making these videos, however. My Little Pony was victim to something I like to call the Undertale effect, where fans will rip the show's boundaries apart and make these highly specific fan works that in turn create their own little sub-fandoms. But the point shifts from, I am a fan of My Little Pony, to, I am a fan of Equestria Fallout, the My Little Pony Fallout hybrid. The same thing was happening when My Little Pony fans were adapting horror elements into the world of Equestria. Let's take Pinkie Pie for example. In the main canon of the show, she is a massive ball of energy who really cares about her friends. And possibly has ADHD if we're being honest. With the amount of horror stuff that had Pinkie Pie at the center of it, a new character was born to differentiate the two realities. Pinkamena, that massive energy now being used to torture her friends in various stories. Pinkie Pie at that point became the face of horror in My Little Pony, and a similar thing would happen to the rest of the main six. Competing in a fan competition, a YouTuber called Brony Dance Party made the now infamous music video Rainbow Factory. The video contains a darker version of Rainbow Dash, who seemingly drains the color from other ponies to fuel this grey and imposing factory. What's kind of interesting about this one is that everything happened in reverse. There was the music video that then led to someone else making their own fanfiction on fanfiction.net, which then led to another music video that details the inner workings of the factory by having Rainbow Dash try to drain the color from Scootaloo. This then branched off into its own thing. Now, in 2024, there is a boatload of fan stuff about this one little music video. Shed.mov turns the shy and well-mannered Fluttershy into a deranged bone collector who eats human brains. That isn't the scariest part in the video though. It's the human hands. And just like with Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie, this version of Fluttershy became very popular, spawning honestly, quite a few different versions of evil Fluttershy. I think this popularity comes from the fact that this is a complete inversion of the character everyone loved. A fact I got from Izzy's video was the existence of the MLP manga, and the fact that it references a line from the video. I have now shamelessly parroted information right back to you, viewer, and ruthlessly stole from another person's video. Jesus, aren't I cool? There was an Apple sleep experiment for Applejack. She was originally going to be on the thumbnail, but then I got into that weird mood where you delete and recreate stuff over and over again, I'm talking about My Little Pony, I'm so sorry. This one also came from fanfiction, but more specifically a My Little Pony dedicated site, and was based on a creepypasta with a similar name, The Russian Sleep Experiment. Since I'm totally illiterate, I use the dramatic reading on YouTube. The story stays mostly the same. Applejack takes a potion that forces her to stay awake for 24 hours in order to repay a debt that her farm has built up. Just like the actual creepypasta, however, she can't manage to fall asleep well over when the effect should have ended. There's a really cool thing in the dramatic reading where Applejack and the narrator become one person, which I think is really fucking cool.
Sometimes she couldn't hear the doctors or nurse ponies over their frantic buzz. She wasn't sure how long she had been in that hospital bed. She recalled having some pony tell her
she needed to rest,
but sleep wouldn't come.
it had been over 24 hours, hadn't it?
Wasn't Twilight's potions supposed to wear off by then? That filthy rich pony must have been in a lot of trouble.
She wondered how much of a beating he had actually taken.
Do you remember the last time you stayed awake for more than a day? You remember how insane you got just from that? Now imagine if someone told you that that nightmare was never going to end. She became paranoid, killing anyone who would go near her farm. The first video has quite a somber ending, where Applejack isn't cured at all and is instead just locked away from both her friends and family. Till the sequel, Little Miss Rarity has the titular character go down the sickening path to, I don't know if I can say any of those words on YouTube. Rarity is scratched by a cat and accidentally kills it. After the confusion wears off, she starts to realize she enjoyed the pain, and then starts having a super and amazing fun time with her little sister. Sure, let's see what was the connecting thing for them. Oh, they both share an enjoyment of masochism. Oh god. Rarity almost killed Twilight to hide this side of herself, but is eventually found out anyway and put in a dungeon. This is the perfect time to segue into my next bit of thought, I guess. These kind of stories all started being placed under one umbrella, which is really good for me because it means I don't have to type MLP horror for the 20th time. Grimdark, for people not recording a 30-minute video on My Little Pony, is a kind of genre known for its dystopian settings, amoral characters, and overall kind of just depressing setting. For whatever reason, the idea of putting ponies in a world like that made a lot of people pop off and create a fucking retcon. What? My Little Pony Grimdarks are a bit all over the place with their quality, but some of them are really good. With the new term, a lot of the old creepypastas I spoke about were changed to MLP Grimdarks. Sometimes. It really depends on who's talking about which one, to be honest. I talked about this in my old video, but a brave fan merged the concepts of Fallout and My Little Pony together, creating Fallout Equestria. By the end, the actual story was over 600,000 words, had a fan dub which honestly was pretty alright, and was available for purchase on Kindle at one point, which I promise is a big deal. And even if that didn't tickle your fancy, there were 4 other audiobooks for you to try out as well. It was granted the legendary tag on Equestria Daily, which was one of, if not the biggest MLP forum at the time. And it didn't just stop there. For a while, the mediums these things would live in were limited to writing, on someone's website or maybe an occasional video. But now things were getting even more out there, and these started to reach gaming. We're going back a little bit for this one, but around the same time that Cupcakes was blowing up, the MLP fandom received Luna Game. It looked mostly normal when you first opened the game, but as time went on, things began to get a little weird. Silhouetted characters crying out, pleading for help. The tiles your character would walk on were mismatched and glitching. There are these scary images that pop up on screen at random, and for whatever reason, the character I'm playing as doesn't react to anything. Not the pony's cries or the straight up murders it commits. What was even more chilling was this game installing these weird files in your computer. I've never seen anything like this before. Is this game actually haunted? Yeah, so that last bit got the game removed from a forum. A lot of people thought this very common horror trick now was just straight up malware, so I don't think that was the intended effect. From what my research tells me, this was the first My Little Pony horror game, or at least the most popular one. Of course, since the floodgates were opened, there were more games as well. Dreamy Rainbow 2 opens in a bright field that you're freely able to walk around in. The only thing you can really even do is talk to Pinkie Pie, who tells you to return at night. After waiting for many hours, changing the time, I reopened the game and it's moody. But come on, it's not a crazy thing for a game to have a day and night cycle. Now, Pinkie Pie is asking me to leave? What? No, you said I should come back at night, and I'm here. Alright, let's see what... Oh, what the fuck? How do you know my name? Is this real? Is what children who accidentally stumbled on this game would be saying. If I can glaze for a second, this is the kind of horror I love so fucking much. This is a very laid back form of horror that doesn't immediately jump at you. It builds atmosphere before revealing Twilight's mangled corpse to the player, then using that moment of shock to really grasp at you by using your real name, or whatever's on the PC at the current time. But then the third game is kind of everything I dislike about creepypastas. I feel like this whole thing could be a video on its own, but let's just leave it at I did not care for Dreamy Rainbow 3. The premiere of season 5 of My Little Pony depicts a town who all have the same cutie mark, haircut and uncanny smiles. Many fans think that this episode was inspired by our next game, Story of the Blanks. A cutie mark in My Little Pony represents literally everything about you. Your struggles, your drive, every single action you've taken to get to that very point. That little sticker proves that you're an individual. Story of the Blanks begins with Apple Bloom tagging along with Twilight to deliver a book back to Zecora. Once they try and leave though, their exit is blocked by logs, and like any kid, Apple Bloom began wandering around while Twilight sorted everything out. The nostalgic backgrounds disappear. The player is now running through dark hallways with every pony they see having no cutie mark. In fact, they've never even heard of a cutie mark. The longer you stay here, the more uneasy things become, and the more and more you start focusing on things that would otherwise be normal. The graphics look like any other game from the NES, but all of the characters' eyes are just black voids. I can't help but feel like every character on screen has already lost so much of their souls that they can only compensate by blankly staring into mine. And I think something scarier are the characters lacking a mark. In this civilization, being special and standing out aren't a thing. Everyone acts the same, likes the same thing. I could see why someone would think this place is perfect, but this has to be a deeply depressing place to live. Your individuality doesn't matter here. You aren't loved for what you bring to the table. You're loved because you're agreeable. It's just an echo chamber that sustains itself by devouring the individuality of everyone unfortunate enough to end up there. For my money, that was probably one of the best paragraphs I've ever written, and I've wasted it on a My Little Pony video. I hope so far my video has shown all the types of horror that have come and gone from the My Little Pony fanbase. Something I personally find pretty interesting is that this video kind of acts like a time capsule for what was popular on the internet at the time. The era of horror fanfics with Cupcakes and Rainbow Factory, Meat Canyon style things with the Cupcakes video, Smile HD and The Shed. That kind of content is still really big. That shock horror will always have a place on YouTube, I think. When video game creepypastas like Sonic.exe and Ben Drown got big, annoyingly big, but big, it went back to the MLP fanbase, and fans tried to trick people into thinking their computers were now haunted with Lunar Client and Dreamy Rainbow 2. But I think there is a genre that I will always resonate the most within this fanbase. I don't know if there's like an all-encompassing term I can use to describe this one. You know, like you've got FNAF with mascot horror, or creepypastas with bad horror. But the horror I'm going to be talking about is taking these characters from their peaceful and cartoony world and have them interact with arguably one one of the most challenging events that my generation and the world at large had to face. Lockdown make me sad and depressed, and water is wet. I think that this is kind of where a lot of the infection AU stuff found its footing. Of course, a sentence like that wouldn't come with a massive asterisk next to it. There was a video that came out 11 years ago that somewhat predicted the pandemic. It's a 10-minute reading of the main six locking themselves away from the rest of society due to a virus that has seemed to completely warp the way their world works. There is a part near the end where one of the characters coughs, and the other characters need to figure out what they're going to do to preserve themselves. The main conflict coming from the fact that these best friends don't want to end each other's lives. And it's weird to see this age so well. This is a story where a lot of problems get dealt with the power of friendship. And here I am getting pretty emotional about a creepypasta. Anything dropped after the pandemic has this underlying nostalgia to me. The one I haven't spoken about yet is Smile Virus. The outbreak begins before the first episode of My Little Pony, with a far more conceited Twilight trying to work around the task Celestia gave her by making a potion that would fix her friendless problem. This goes terribly wrong, obviously, and she turns herself into patient zero for this virus. It's transmitted through biting and turns anyone infected into murderous smile zombies. It doesn't have the happiest ending, but you know, it's hopeful. As quickly as these AUs took off is also kind of how fast they started to burn out too. In the time it's taken me to make this video, I have witnessed the massive blow up from this whole genre, where I had friends constantly talking about it and saying how much they wanted to make their own thing, and now nobody talks about it. Of course, then there's the argument of whether or not I'm slow or this fell off fast, but we'll go with the second one. The next part of this is going to be a full-on review of this video, because it's an infection AU analog horror thing that I can't escape. Fuck. Analog horror follows me everywhere I go.
Many moons ago, when the pony cons used to live in harmony, a pony living in the hayseed swamp was busy conducting plant research. During their expedition, they discovered a very unusual flower with multiple orange dots on its leaves, floating on the lake atop a lily pad. While the pony wanted to take a closer look, the flower released gas towards them. Soon after, the pony started to feel sick. They could feel their heart racing, and their coat began showing orange dots on parts of their bodies. Their coughs showed signs of bubbles coming out of their throat. Unusual shock sneezes, which produced electricity, were observed due to the powerful energy gas that created such a shock. His sickness began spreading all across the village, creating a widespread outbreak of disease. A very rare disease called swamp fever.
Unlike a lot of other AUs, swamp fever directly takes place after a pony has already found a cure for the virus. This doesn't come with consequences though. Ponies who have entered the final stage of swamp fever become trees and are unable to be saved, so their friends and families never get the chance to see that pony again. Okay, I told a little bit of a fib there. The last recorded event of someone being cured by swamp fever was many years ago. So the scientist who narrates this intro, Algar Sunshine, has been trying to recreate that cure, but unfortunately during his research, he has become infected with the swamp fever.
Hi, my name is Argyle Starshine. I am a researcher who believes in the existence of magic. If you find this tape, I'm probably dead. I have been infected with swamp fever.
One of the most uneasy points I've had while watching a TV show is when the audience becomes aware of the fate of a character before they've had time to come to that realization themselves. It's that sinking feeling of frequently asking, when is it gonna happen? That only really fades when the character dies, and you're now met with all of the sorrow and despair that comes with a sudden death like that. I'll tell you now, Argyle is going to die, and he will go out in one of the worst ways imaginable. There is a bit where he just talks about his daughter and how she has no idea what he's doing right now, having no clue that she will never see him again. It's only in these moments where a person has regrets on the time they've spent with someone, and all he can do is apologize.
Oh, I never told my daughter about my research and my self-exploration in the Hayseed Swamp before I left. I just don't want her to be involved in my dangerous explorations. I've been foolish, chasing this dream of finding magic from Equestria, unknowingly leading to my slow demise. I've been avoiding myself in public. I don't want any pony to get infected by me. I created a mask to prevent the spread of the disease, and I even have to isolate myself far from home. I've been gone for 4 days, and I miss her. I'm so sorry, Sonny. I'm very sorry.
Things only get more tragic when he finds the flower that infected him wasn't the only one left. In fact, there were countless more that other people could end up finding. What about the cure? Surely that means the bees haven't been seen in years. It's not unrealistic to imagine they could have gone extinct by now. And alternative versions of the honey don't have any effect either. Argyle begins to lose faith in finding a cure. He's holding out hope in the magic that has saved so many ponies before. The infection is progressing steadily. He now has branches growing on his head. He's coughing more. But Argyle holds on to hope. 38, 38, 38. How will I be if there's nothing to taste? 38, 38, 38. Who should I wait for when the light comes to fade? This chant has a lot of significance as a way to just maybe hold off the virus long enough for Argyle to find a cure. This death only really gets worse the more I think about it. A person's faith being brutally turned into dust as he calls out for his healing chant, his princess, and then his daughter, but nobody came. In his final moments, the only thing on Argyle's mind was him dooming his daughter by forcing her to adapt his violence instead of finding her own. What a fucking incredible piece of media. All of the animation was done by one person and it looks so good. I think this is maybe one of the best horror videos I've seen, period. I know a lot of people won't ever make it to this point of the video, but I wanted to save my favorite part of horror for last, because this has been a journey through internet horror as a whole. I want this video to act as a type of time capsule for all of the ways people got scared on the internet. Of course, I know there are people who will dismiss this entire video because it's about the stupid idiot children's thing My Little Pony, but it matters to me and I'm right, so go fuck yourself. Thanks for watching the video. I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreons: Nikotro Official, Anthaculwu, No Name, Pwep, Much Appreciated, Martha Mayers, Obscuroni, Ant, Israfel's Fire, and Truly. You guys are a major help and I appreciate every single one of you. If you would like to be on the super elite task force of definitely Border Oranges fans, then consider giving me $1. With that out of the way, I'll go play Overwatch or something, I don't know. See ya, lads.